We are back for the second edition of Cats Courtside. I've
Yes,
got
sir.
my good buddy Michael here, and I'm Trace. As you all know, I'm sure y'all are probably tired of hearing of me, but we're back. We didn't record last week because there just wasn't a whole lot to talk about. And I
Yeah.
know the football part, I know it doesn't matter here, but that was the bye week. It was a bye week for most of us. We kind of got away from things. Basketball is about to ramp back up, but we're back into it. We got Big Blue Madness under our belt. We got the Blue White game. We've got a lot to talk about. So let's start off with it. You want to start off with what? Let's go with Big Blue Madness. As I've hit the nail so many times, hit the point so many times. I love Big Blue Madness. It is really stale, but it's for me. I don't think I'll ever hate it, no matter how boring it gets. It's just an introduction to the season. All the blue and lights and it just I fan out in those moments. We got the Big Z a debut.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take away. Did you get to catch any of the Big Blue Madness, or you have any? What's your thoughts on Big Blue Madness this year?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. We were pretty busy at Fox just doing our high school football stuff.
That's right.
But I tuned in a little bit, and it's fun. As I told you guys on our first show, I'm a Michigan State guy, Michigan State grad. So we had Midnight Madness, which was like our big thing. Hey, I see you back there. No thumbs down. Come on now. I know it's a little rivalry there in the Champions Classic, but I get the hype behind the event. I think it's an awesome event, and obviously for the fans to just kind of fill up Rupp and get the first look, I thought it was cool. I mean, it was good to see them out there. I know the dunk contest, I guess Jordan Burks was kind of like, he had a weird first dunk, but then he was kind of surprising people a little bit, right?
Who would have? Yeah, the two people that were in it, it was Jordan Burks and Joey Hart for all people.
Right.
No one would have predicted them two, I'm sure. And we saw the Joey Hart show.
Yeah.
What about that? I mean, I don't think he even knew the show was there that day. When he won the dunk contest, they went up to him, and he seems like a good kid, but he's got a little awkwardness about him. And one of the reporters went over to him and interviewed him, and like, you just won the dunk contest. What's your thoughts? And he's like, thanks you all for coming out. He just didn't know what to say. I think he was a little shocked he won it too. But did you know he had that bounce?
Man, I didn't know, but I did see some of his clips when he announced he was coming here.
Mm-hmm.
Looked at like his huddle and his high school highlights. The dude can hoop. I mean, He's a shooter. He can hit those corner threes, which is probably what they're going to need him to do, right? Because he's not going out there to win you the ball game. He's not really dribbling the ball much at all. He's just going to be a guy that, like Wagner or Rob, is going to just penetrate, drive, and kick to these corner shooters, Edwards or Reeves on the wing, or if Joey Hart can knock him down consistently, that's his vibe. But it was fun to see some of his high school clips. He can get up, so I wasn't surprised.
I think he's from Indiana, so we already know high school basketball in Indiana. That's a different breed too. So I think like I didn't keep up with his high school career, but I would completely believe what you're saying. He's from Indiana. He's good enough to come to Kentucky. I bet he did have a solid high school career. I'm sure.
I can't remember where he was committed to, and then he decommitted. I can't remember. It was a smaller school, wasn't it? I think
I
can't remember. But yeah, I mean, he's a talented dude.
But yeah.
He's not going to really find much time. How tall is he, anyways? I forget.
He's now just going off standing next to him. He's probably 6'3", maybe.
So I mean, it's just we knew it was a loaded backcourt, and I mean, we're going to talk about Adu and Reed and all these guys. Like, there's only 5 guys, right? There's only so many minutes.
Joey Hart was great. Not to make the Joey Hart show, because he had his moment at Big Blue Madness, but it was a good point that we noted that because he won the dunk contest. No one expected that. But keep it on the same theme of
Central Florida.
Yeah,
okay. Random.
But I actually didn't know that.
Indiana guy, yeah.
Okay. Keep it on, just continue on the Big Blue Madness part. We had the Big Z debut. The hyped Big Z. I'm going to butcher this again. Zvonimir
Ivisic.
Okay.
Practiced it a bunch to say it on the air. I was like, oh my God.
I'll get it soon. But we saw his debut, sort of. He didn't play, but we got to see him finally there in his Kentucky gear. He looks fake. I mean, the 7'2" is the hype is there. I mean, they didn't add a couple inches. He is 7'2", if not more. It's exciting to see him. For a while this summer, it's just the myth and the unknown feature. And we finally saw him. He's here. He's on the team. He's going to play at some point. I hate that we didn't get to see it in Big Blue Madness, but honestly, Big Blue Madness is what it is. Lil Wayne didn't show up like we were told he would. We were told by some pretty credible people that Lil Wayne was going to be there and that it was confirmed. Did not happen, unfortunately. Big Blue Madness was kind of still like normal.
Yeah.
But my takes on Big Blue Madness, it was fun for me, but I don't really have any strong points on her besides it was the Big Z, his appearance. Did you have any final takes on Big Blue Madness?
No, I mean, I thought it was a cool event. Just kind of ready to get things going over to the Blue White game because that was fun, and it's actually good to see these guys, get out there. Big Z obviously didn't, which is kind of the big point from the day, right?
Well, that's a good segue. Is at Big Blue Madness, Cal said, come to Northern Kentucky, come to Truist Arena. We're gonna get the come watch Big Z play. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but when he first said it, I got a little PTSD. I was like, I immediately was thinking Shaden Sharp because the way he said it, come watch Shaden Sharp warm up. He said, come watch Big Z play, and I was like, just immediately like, oh my god. But I just rolled with it, and turns out he didn't play. About 2 hours or so before the Blue White game, to segue in there, he announced that he was going to sideline him for the day, because apparently he's been going 3-a-days in Croatia, but apparently the 1-a-days here, or just the one practices at least, is honestly, it seems like it's being too much for him. He said he's banged up after one practice. I mean, I didn't think it was that much difference here in America.
I mean, that's what Boogie just said, right? I mean, and we can talk about Boogie too committing, but he was like he came here to, he's cool with DJ Wagner. He came in to just look at practice and see DJ going up against these other guys. Like, you're competing against the best when you come here. So when Big Z comes here, it's just like, okay, he's got some big guys, and really the other two bigs are injured, so he wasn't even practicing against Ugana or Aaron, and he's still banged up. But I mean, it's really not a huge deal. I know the fans were a little hurt, but he's gonna be fun to watch. I'm interested to see just like how fast he is, because he might be slow, and it's going to take him a little while, maybe with his footwork. Cal said he's got good feet, and so the defense, pick and roll defense, he might be a liability. We'll see. But for now, I think it's just like, chill on the hype for this guy, because like he's got to prove himself. But either way, he'll be a piece.
Well, Cal's been in front of that too. He said at the media day, well, it was like the SEC media day, not the local one. He said, if you think Big Z is going to be the Lord and Savior, and I forget what he called him, he said, stop that now. King Kong. He said, stop that right now. He literally, quote, said he is a piece to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. So I think that, with the unknown factor of him, there was a lot of extra hype there. I think he's going to be good, but not going to be the person that saves the day and wins the title by himself. So I'm glad Cal got out in front of that to calm down a little bit. And I think he probably does need to add a little bit of weight. That's going to come. It's hard when you're that tall and lengthy to put on to be real solid. Just most of those guys don't have it. I do want to point out, I think he does have good footwork. Like you said, he's got some guard handles for a 7-footer. I mean, he does all right. We saw some all the highlight clips this summer. I watched those until they wouldn't play anymore. But finishing on Big Z, I do want to point out, he did get sidelined for the game after Cal said, come watch him. And to be honest with you, I'm not mad at it. Because I think, if you said, well, if you told people right after Big Blue Madness, like, he's not going to play, we're going to sideline him, and he's not going to play, some fans might have not came. And the goal of that was to raise money for charity. So, like, of course, go there and let them all pack it out so you can do a good deed, and then maybe let them know. And I like the way he apologized about it. He's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't. He just addressed it immediately. I probably shouldn't have said that. But, instead I had to pick between me being a man of my word or protecting him for the season. He said those exact words, and he said, let's keep him rest up for the season, get him ready. So I like that he addressed it instead of the whole Shaden Sharp stuff. And not to touch on that. That was a big mystery, a big frustration. I think Cal is going to handle this PR perspective a little bit better.
Yeah, and that one was so much different just because, like, there was a lot that we weren't being told. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that whole situation was weird, and now, like, fans don't even want to claim Shaden as, like, a member of La Familia and, like, one of the alums. That's a whole thing that, we really don't need to get into. But I think I'm just excited to see, the two bigs get out there. And, Cal keeps saying they're probably not going to be ready for the start of the season. So, if Z looks good on Friday in the exhibition against Georgetown College, then that's a good sign. But one of your points was Trey, right? Trey Mitchell.
Yes.
That's what we talked about on our first pod when they were up in Canada. Just that small ball 5 lineup where, like, he was just in the perfect spot at the dunker spot, and he could run the floor, fill his lane. They say he can shoot. I still want to see him prove that in games, but that's the guy that I think until Aaron comes back, Trey's going to be the guy that is at the 5. He's going to start at the 5 probably, and he's a guy that could really be like a difference maker on this team.
Yeah, I think he is going to be the early starter just with the injuries, like you said, the early exhibitions that don't matter at all. Don't want to rush those guys back. So I think he is probably the lock to start at the 5 to start the first few little exhibition games off. But I remember after the Canada games, my expectations my takeaway of Trey Mitchell was like that was more than I expected. You know, he put up some shots. I mean, he showed he could shoot somewhat instead of just being stuck around the rim. He hit a couple 3-pointers, had some mid-range shots. Like he's got a little shot on him. Now he's not going to be our Antonio Reeves first option at the 3, but I'm glad to know that we finally have a big guy that's just not stuck to the rim. So that was my takeaway from him from the Canada games, that he's got a little bit of shot on him. I think he'll be great for us. He brings that veteran presence to help with Antonio Reeves. I think what he's here to do, I think he's going to accomplish both of those. He's going to be that rotational guy that helps out, when outside Bradshaw, Big Z, and Ugana. And he's got the veteran leadership. That's all we really need him to do. Thankfully, when the injuries are done with and over, we'll have a lot of depth. And that's not something we're used to either. So I'm glad with having Trey Mitchell on this team.
14 and 14 in the blue-white game. Those couple threes you mentioned. It'll be interesting because, the big thing is Cal never lets his big shoot, right? And so if Trey's playing the 5, he's probably not going to shoot, but do you have an opportunity to put him at the 4 when one of the bigs comes back? And then could you still play Edwards at the 3 and then play big? Or it seems like, Justin Edwards at the 4 is probably going to be their best lineup because you want to get 3 of those guards in there basically at all times. Those guys are just elite. As we saw, Rob, we'll talk about him and his 40 points, DJ, Reed Shepherd, Antonio Reeves, 2 is really just not enough. It seems like 3 of those guys need to be on the floor with Edwards at the 4 and, Trey at the 5, but we'll see how that kind of progresses.
I think there's a lot of excitement here because, once we get past all this early injuries, just getting the season rolling and get to the core of it, and as Braden likes to say in our football podcast, the meat and potatoes of the season, I think there's a lot of excitement to be there because we have a lot of depth. At the guard, we got too much at the guards. I mean, I'm not even going to say too much because I'm thankful we finally have that. But we got a lot of options at the guard play. Got 4 solid people at down in the post. They worked a little bit of Jordan Burks down there, to help with all the injuries this time. So that's a last scenario option to help. We've got depth finally at all positions. Yeah. It's a lot to be excited about. I mean, if we want to get in and break down the blue-white game, we saw a lot of great things, as much as you can in an inter-squad scrimmage. But Rob Dillingham, like you just said, 40 points. Like, what? My biggest takeaway was that I think that's probably more of the scenario he thrives in, the type of game, with the game that doesn't matter. I can ball hog and get my shots this game because we're going to obviously win no matter what. It's not against Kansas where everybody's got to be perfect. It's got to be a full operation. So I think that was his moment where AAU pickup ball that he just balled out and got his thing rolling. So it was exciting to see him get that going. Do you have any, from Blue White game, who were some of your other standouts that just you were pretty happy to see out there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't take a huge stock in point totals because at the end of the day, these guys all played basically all 40 minutes, right? I mean, not the entire time, but basically there were no subs.
No subs the whole first half.
No subs. So it's like somebody's got to score, right? Somebody's got to put a point. So, the point totals I'm not, huge on, even though the 40 from Rob is pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. The rest of the guys, it's kind of like whatever. But then you kind of look at the efficiency. And so Rob was 14 for 23. So, I mean, that's looking good that he's above 50%. The 3 for 7 from 3 is, solid. Mm-hmm. The 9 for 12 from the line is impressive. So when you factor that in, his 7 assists, I think it's going to be interesting to see, in big moments and when the game gets tight, right, who's going to be facilitating. Is it DJ? Is it Rob? Certain guys just kind of have that knack for big moments, especially when half-court offenses get stale, right, which is what we've seen last couple of years with Oscar and the whole offense, right? It gets stale, and then nobody really knows what to do. Then you have to rely on somebody to make a bad shot. I think it's important to see who kind of steps up as a facilitator. And we saw Reed do that in Toronto, but the 7 assists from Rob was a game high. So I like to see that, and I don't know, man. The guy's talented. Both of them are.
Yeah, going off of Reed, I'm glad you threw him in there with facilitator because that was exact word that I have written down. So great minds think alike. Facilitator, I think of that as Reed too because he's the guy that's he's going to do everything. I mean, he's going to have his hand in every basket of the game. I mean, he ran the whole off. He was point guard number 1 for the white team or for the blue team yesterday. The whole day, the whole evening, he was point guard number 1. Ran that offense while DJ was running it for the white team. He's a guy that like you can guarantee every single play. He's not going to take a play off. He's a asset on defense. I mean, he had a handful of steals. He was guarding, locking up DJ Wagner for the most part of it. He's just a guy that's like when he comes in, he's going to be a spark. You know what you're going to get from him. I really don't think there's going to be many games with Reed that he takes a step off the gas pretty much. I'm really excited. He's going to play a lot more here than people think. Like in my early seasons, way too early, I've got him in that top 7, 8 range of rotation. Maybe that's too high, but like he can prove his own. He can play with this level of players, and I'm just excited to see what he does every opportunity that he gets.
Yeah, and he's going to embrace those opportunities, right? Because I mean, he's not going to get 30 minutes a game, right? He's going to come up off the bench, and he's going to be a guy that the crowd kind of lights up when he comes in just before the under 12 timeout, the first group of subs. So that's going to be a little spark. It's going to just be interesting to see his defense, because he's not really undersized. He's got like size. He's tall and he's got some muscle on him. So I don't think that'll be a problem for him. It's just his like lateral quickness and his ability to just kind of like body up and defend at a high level. I think the guard play is going to work itself out by like who's going to go out there and guard the other team's best guard, right? And especially in this tough non-conference slate where they're going to see some talent. Like this team's got talent, but like they're seeing all these good teams, right? Champions Classic, and you just go down with North Carolina and and Atlanta and all of these games, even Miami. So they're going to be tested early, and we got to see how they do on both sides of the floor.
One thing I did like about the blue-white game is with the injuries going on and then the roster just trying to see what works in different scenarios, I think we saw a lot of guys show more than what probably is going to be asked for in the season.
Yeah.
And I mean that more of like the Jordan Burks of the world, but maybe not necessarily the next guy I'm alluding to, Adu Thiero.
Yeah.
He had rolled his ankle at Pro Day, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And then so he came out, ankle taped up, ready to go for the blue-white game, and he played great.
26
points.
10 for 13. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he played great. I think like 4th or 5th on the scoring list, maybe 3, somewhere up in that top 5. And
9 boards.
That's great to have out of him. He's a guy that's been here for a couple of years. He's going to bring a little bit of upperclassman experience. He's going to bring that grit. I mean, that's what he is first known for, is his grit. He is another guy that's more of like a glue guy. He can kind of fill in. We saw his first glimpse of him last year running the point when we were down injured with Kaysen, and he was running the point with Reeves. But after the blue-white game, Cal mentioned something about him being at the 4 if injuries allude to that.
Which is no way that happens. But he is big. Like he did gain a good amount of muscle, which is good. Yeah, and he did grow.
I think he's like 6'8" or 6'9" now. He grew a little bit.
I still don't believe it. I'll have to see him. We'll see him on Wednesday for Media Day, which will be, and then obviously the exhibition Friday. So I don't know. Cal might be blowing a little smoke, but I guess we'll see. We'll see out there.
I'm right there with you. I don't see him playing at the 4, but I like that he's. I mean, I like that it's somewhat of a thought. Like he's a world where it's possible, even though I doubt that's going to happen.
If he does, good for him. I mean, I see more of that being, just Edwards and Burks, and then Trey when they have the bigs in there. That Trey's going to play a lot of minutes, I think. I mean, he goes down there in Birmingham and represents them at SEC Media Days with Tone, and I think he's immediately with leadership. And Cal was asked about it. Obviously, it's a tough situation, right, with the Bob Huggins stuff. Like, that guy should not have really been in the portal. That was pretty unexpected. And Cal swipes him up in a week. I mean, that's pretty legendary, and it really could change the season, especially when you have these injuries. Without Mitchell, I think there would be a lot more, like, nervous energy right now ahead of the start of the season with these bigs hurt.
It's like you said, Cal swept him from the portal. It's Cal. He's this connection relationship guy. I forget what it was now, but something like Trey Mitchell's stepdad was on one of his staffs on like his first or second year coaching, like 30 years ago.
The connection tree is just like insane.
It was something
that many
so
years.
far-fetched, dude. So far-fetched, and like it just worked out. It fell in his lap when we really needed it. It was a blessing to get Trey Mitchell, and it could change the season for us. It definitely could.
One thing I wanted to ask you is Reeves. That I know fans are getting a little nervous. Obviously, it's just a little scrimmage, but 1 for 9.
1 for 9.
And bad taste in their mouths with the tournament game. He'll be fine, right?
Yeah,
but I think I wonder if he's gonna he's obviously got the green light from Cal.
Oh, yeah.
How long will that green light last? Because last year there just wasn't enough talent to where he had to have that green light, especially later in the season when he caught his stride and started putting up some like high point totals and really started stepping up. Cal's just like, okay, your green light is on permanently. Yeah. And we saw in some games where that was a bad thing, right? He couldn't reel it in. He couldn't, and he didn't get to the, try to get to the line, try to do something else to get a bucket. He just kept, throwing up those threes. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that you got to watch out for too, because if he keeps missing, Cal's going to be quick to pull him. There's too much talent there at the guard position to where, in the whole lineup, I think Cal's going to have options. And so guys are going to feel pressure to make shots and do their jobs, or else they're going to get pulled.
That's the thing. There's too much talent to go out there and go 1 for 9, like you just said. I am not too worried about it, to be honest with you. It is his green light to lose. Yeah. But like you said, that's the big kicker is last year he couldn't have lost it. I mean, they needed him to shoot to have a chance in any game. It got kind of pretty rusty at the end there. But this year, if he keeps putting up like clunkers like that, then we got too much talent where like that leash is a little bit shorter. These other guys are going to step in. But yeah, I mean, we do have to note that. He did go really cold for the blue-white game, and who knows what it could be. Maybe it's just getting back in the swing of thing. I'm just going to make some excuses for him. And he's got new teammates, seeing what they can do, maybe just being a distributor. But, I mean, numbers don't lie. You missed 8 shots. So there's a little concern there. But to be honest, I'm not looking way into it. Just kind of like the Rob Dillingham, the 40 points. That was awesome, but I don't expect him to have 40 points in probably maybe any game at all this season. If one, maybe, but I don't expect that. So
if he does that, he's gonna be a top 5 pick.
Yeah,
I mean, let's
some highs and lows in the game. But another thing I want to talk about is the big man. So Cal did also say in his post game press conferences that he kind of gave a status update of Big Z, Bradshaw, and Ugo. He thinks that Ugo is going to be the last one of the 3 to return if he had to pick today because of the timetable of the surgery. Do you think that hurts us at all? Is that as big of a deal as one could maybe argue it would be? I mean, we'd probably want, if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Bradshaw and Big Z back first. I think Ugo is probably the most less talented out of those 3, but that's just one man's opinion. Do you think that matters at all?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think people got excited at some of the glimpses that Ugana showed. So I don't know if you guys should really be nervous. I think he's going to come in, and I don't think he's going to be this guy that just comes in and is just a completely different player. And he's offensively skilled with some hooks and throw it off the glass or pass out of double teams. I don't know if he's there yet as a player. He's still, pretty young. I think he's only a junior, right? He came here as a sophomore. So
I believe so.
He's still got he's got a lot of development. So I think Bradshaw's more of a guy that you should be wanting to get on the floor quick, because I think fans are going to want to see the 5 freshmen. That's always, fun. But either way, I think Bradshaw's ceiling is just way higher. If Ugo's going to get you a couple putback dunks and some block shots, that's great. That's his role. And, that's something that kind of needed Lance Ware to do, but just couldn't really defend at that level last year. And so if he can contribute that's great. But Bradshaw's your guy that I think you want to be focused on. Keep an eye on his return date, because once he gets out there, man, that guy's got talent and he's got scoring ability, so he can take some pressure off the guards. And then if you have 5 guys that you can legitimately throw to get a bucket, that's when you're really just scary, and you could go out there and win the SEC or win these big non-conference games. When you got Ugo and maybe Jordan Burks out there who aren't proven to go get a bucket, and you only have 3 scorers, that's where you're kind of limited as a team, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you are right on Aaron Bradshaw being where the success, if everything goes right, probably through him. But think about this, if you flip it a little bit, it's we're in a position of where we have a 7-footer where we don't even need him. We have one on the bench that is our 3rd option, maybe 4th option. That's a good feeling to have. I don't, like you said, I don't expect Ugo to do a whole lot, but it is a good feeling to be we got a 7-footer that we don't need, that probably won't play a lot, and he's going to be out for injuries for most of the beginning of the season. So I don't know. The depth thing is what's getting me going right now. Of just we have so many options once they're all healthy. I just can't wait to see what they become. They've got great team chemistry. I know the last few years there's been some rumblings off the teams that some people didn't get along. Losing doesn't help, but we saw plain as day through the Canada games, through the blue-white game. This team loves each other. They all get along. They all hang out. It feels like it's back to old times. This is a team that this is his recruiting team. This is the team that he would go after where he's had a success with these type of players. And I don't know, man, it's just good vibes to me. That's my takeaways right now. I feel like this is where I want to be right now. I don't want to be worrying about if, these little sideline stories go into the season. I think last year we waited to like the last moment to see if Oscar returned. I don't know. Just vibes around the Kentucky basketball team right now feel pretty good. I'm ready to get this thing going. The game's in 4 days from now? The first exhibition game.
Yeah, Georgetown, and then I'm excited to see that Champions Classic game. See him going up against Kansas because Hunter Dickinson, the dude's got talent. I know from him beating up on Michigan State a couple times when he was with the Gross School in Ann Arbor. So I don't know. I think that guy's going to be tough to handle. And if Hugo's probably not going to be if Hugo can be in there to block shots on when Dickinson gets it in the post, I think that could be a big plus for them to try to win that game. But that's a ways down the road. Definitely just excited to see them get out there and play.
Another notable thing that I heard during the blue-white game is we noticed the white team had, I think there's about probably, you could say 3 or 4 likely starters on that team compared to the blue team. They looked a lot more talented, but the blue team won. The blue team played a lot better. Cal said after the scrimmage, that the white team was pretty pissed about losing. And it is just a scrimmage that doesn't matter. But I love that the players are so mad about that and so into it shows that they care, it shows that the effort, it shows that they want to beat up on their teammates and have some bragging rights. And you can also spin off that is okay, the quote backup role players are beating the starters, and it's not necessarily that, but it's just showing you that we're just not the top 5 heavy. We've got a lot of options. Going back to that depth, it's so exciting, dude.
Yeah, I mean for the game. Blue, they shot 45% from 3 versus 25 for the white team. And you're right about the starters. I actually didn't even think about that, but the white team has DJ, and they got Edwards and Reeves and Trey Mitchell. That's 4 starters probably compared to just 1 for Rob Dillingham. Maybe. I mean, I guess there's no big. If Trey's the big, he'll be the 5th starter. So the other one's got Adu, Reed, Joey Hart, Jordan Burks. So that's a good little chip for the blue team. I just want to see them, continue to hit threes. That's just what they need. You go 7 for 14 in the first half on threes. That's pretty good. That's going to win you ball games.
And back to threes. I mean, getting up points. One team had 100, one team had 89, 189 points combined. I mean, last year Cal said his score range at 80. Let's try to get 80 a game. Both teams got above that at the scrimmage. I know there's a lot of more shots. The volume was a lot higher, but they put up numbers in the Canada games. This team is proven to be a scoring team, a high-paced or a fast-paced offense. Kind of maybe and selfishly, that's what I want to see. Just an offense that can just get things going. I don't know, man. It's just I really enjoyed what we've seen out of them all the way through here so far. I know Antonio Reeves was cold, but he won at Big Blue Madness. He was back on his ish. He won the 3-point contest. I mean, so I think it was a little fluke there, but
for sure. We'll see. He'll have some of those cold games, and he'll have a bunch where he drops 25 to 35.
See, last year that wasn't okay at all. This year it's okay. We don't want that to happen. They got to go through him to have the ceiling of what we want. But we've got options this year. If he does have a cold night, we've got plenty of options to pick from. And man, if you sit there and think about it, how many players can we probably go ahead and pick from that's probably going to have a game where they're the guys? It's who can go off one night? Oh, it's over a handful, man. Maybe a half dozen. I don't know. Maybe more than that.
Yeah, and Cal picks his favorites, right? I mean, with the substitution patterns, and he wants everybody to eat, but. There were times last year where it was come on, Damian Collins, get in the game more. Put him in the game more. This guy's got talent. He showed some flashes, and Cal just wouldn't put him in. It wasn't ready. Obviously, the death of his father at the start of the season, what kind of just wrecked everything for him, missing time and got him out of the rotation. But we'll see kind of how that settles in. But it'll just be good to see him go up against some guys other than the blue.
Yeah. So like we said, this Friday, today's Monday that we're recording this at Cats Coverage headquarters, but they play tonight on Friday at hosting Georgetown College. So that's how much you can get from that. It's still exciting to see them go against new faces, new jerseys. see what we can work out, maybe throw out some different schemes and options to see what works, different rotations, different lineups, to see the whole team together, kind of like we did in Canada, instead of blue-white going against each other. Then you turn around and you got K-State from right here in Frankfurt coming up to town.
Yep.
So there's 2 little fun nights to get back into Rupp Arena just to get their excitement going back up. And then, bam, the season's here. I mean, football, we're still in the depths of football right now, but basketball season's here, man. I mean,
that's good.
Can't kind of really believe it, but I'm glad it is here.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. It's just gonna be good to see them, raise that energy, because Georgetown's gonna come in like ready to play. Chris Briggs' squad, they're always good. They've won NAIA national titles.
Yeah.
So obviously they're not expecting to go out and win the game, but they're gonna compete. That's gonna probably be one of those close first halves. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 8-point game at halftime. But they'll have fun out there, and it'll be fun to just go out there and see them compete.
Yeah, and I know it's an exhibition, but it's their Super Bowl. They would love to come beat Kentucky. What would that do for Georgetown College? Not going to happen, but they are going to come in and put up a good fight.
Cal's lost. He's lost like 2 exhibition games ever.
I was at the Evansville
game. He did lose.
I was at the Evansville game. I was sitting up there on press row.
That must have been wild.
And, dude, we got about 10 minutes away, and I'm like, what is going on? But, we're going to win this. It's okay. It's a little embarrassing. Then you get 5 minutes.
Oh.
Then you got 2 minutes, and it's tied, and they got the ball. And then when that final buzzer went off, man, I just was like, I had to get out of Rupp as quick as I could.
Yeah.
I was like, this is embarrassing. Yeah. Like the coach, McCarty, right before the game, used to play at Kentucky. I listened to a pregame show he was on, and the way he was talking, I've not seen a coach do this very often. He's just talking about how, like, we just want to do this. For a win for us tonight would be, to make shots. And there's nothing about winning the game. And he walks out the door with a win. Man, I don't think one person expected that, but that was a pretty rough night. But I'm not predicting that to happen this time going around, but you never know. There's been some crazier things, but I think this team's got it. They got a vast volume of talent, and definitely won't see me predicting anything like that this year. But
yeah, I went up to Georgetown Media Day to cover that for Fox 56. They got guys like Cam Taylor-Britt, watch out for him, Tay Dozier. They lost Jake Omer, but they got another guy, Kyron Jones, I think, is one of their other like main guys that are going to go out there and put up points. So they got guys, but it'll be fun to watch. Yeah,
and so you'll catch us next week on Monday when we get back in here, and we've got an exhibition under our belt, and kind of recap on that and give you our takeaways. So please stay tuned in to me and Michael and producer Tim behind the camera, rocking it out. We're going to start throwing him in this camera too sometimes, and I can get his takes.
What do you think? You got a little score prediction for the exhibition?
I'm too scared after Evansville, but I'm going to vote maybe like 50-92.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
40. Pretty good night. Okay. Maybe get another Rob 40-point now. But we'll be back next Monday, try to get you another Cats Courtside. Thank you all for tuning in. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. We're doing stuff on catscoverage.com. We got Michael here with Fox 56. You can catch him on TV. You want to tell him where to?
Yeah, Fox 56, 6:30 and 10 o'clock on Fox 56. Just go on Twitter, X. Whatever we're calling it.
I'm standing my ground with Twitter, man.
I'm standing my ground on Twitter too. Michael Epps TV, and yeah, man, I'll be at the football game on Saturday. Let's see if they can beat the Vols. That's a big one. Vols won back to back. That I was at the game 2 years ago at Kroger Field, and Hooker came in and was slinging it, and the Cats did too. Liam Cohen, like he called a good game. I think both teams scored 40 points. So I know you guys probably talked about that in your pod. So yeah, check out that football
Saturday check down. Braden and Jordan. I got to step in tonight and kind of take the co-host seat. I was very undeserved to be there, but we cranked one out for you, me and Braden. And Jordan will be back next week. But check out our podcast. We're putting them out and everything we do with Cats Coverage, and Michael with Fox 56, and I appreciate you all listening. Thank you.